Hello, Representative Derek Kilmer here, welcoming you to another edition of Ask Derek. If you're just tuning in for the first time, this is my video series where I get to open up my mail and answer a question or two from folks back home. Donald in Tacoma recently wrote in asking about what we're doing to help those struggling with opioid and heroin addiction. Donald, this is an issue I hear about all across the district. It doesn't matter if I'm meeting with a small business or local law enforcement or mental health professionals. Everyone recognizes this is a big problem and one that we need to do something about. Whether you live in Tacoma or Port Angeles or Sequim or Bremerton or Grays Harbor, many folks out there have felt the impact of heroin and opioid abuse. I've heard so many stories of family members and friends who've struggled with the cycle of addiction and a fight to break it. Our communities on the peninsula in particular have been hit especially hard by this scourge. Law enforcement officials are dealing with crowded jails. Medical professionals and emergency responders are seeking to help a growing number of folks in need. And families just want to do more to help their loved ones. We've got to do more to prevent the spread of this abuse. And the president's on the same page. His budget actually calls for hundreds of millions of dollars to support this fight. And this is something I'm hopeful Congress can come together on. Already, the Senate has passed a bipartisan bill that'll help meet this challenge. And I'm a co-sponsor of the bill in the House. And I'll keep pushing for it to be considered sooner rather than later, because we need to get more help for all our communities, whether you live in a city or a small town. I'm fighting for priorities in this legislation, like giving support to states for expanding access to medication-assisted treatments for opioid use, and for investments in the National Health Service Corps to get more people access to substance abuse treatment providers. Not to mention looking at how we can have stronger guidelines for issuing pain medications. For all these reasons and more, I'm hopeful we can get something to the president's desk. Another big way we can make progress is by making sure that overdoses don't become fatal. Oftentimes, minutes matter when preventing a fatal overdose. It's a challenge to get help quickly on the peninsula, where more often we see limited public transportation, a lack of treatment facilities, and long distances between healthcare providers. Recently, critical tools like naloxone, which reverse the effects of heroin and opioids, have proven extremely effective in dealing with overdoses. But the peninsula too often doesn't have naloxone kits within reach to avert tragedy, and that's not right. I want to make sure rural communities have access to life-saving medications too. And that's why I sent a letter to the head of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services about this. I urge the agency to make naloxone kits more accessible to professionals and to families in places like the Olympic Peninsula. The president has also taken notice of this and included more investments to support HHS as it works to expand naloxone access. Because whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, we can all agree that we should have every resource available when an emergency takes place. Again, I'd like to thank you, Donald, for that question. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And please keep the questions coming.